become, we're made to feel as outsiders in our own homes. And wherever you go, we all have an inherent responsibility to our ancestors, to our bloodline that are tied to this land. And we want to sing this song to honor our relatives up north who are fulfilling their responsibilities that were given to them by Creator.
So we're at an event being hosted by the Peace and Justice Center of Sonoma County. And Idle No More co-founder Nina Wilson is about to begin speaking. The opening is from a local drum group.
Thank you. I come from a culture that is always asking you to look forward instead of looking back. And so most of us don't know a whole lot about our ancestors. I've started looking back, and some of them are pretty great, and some of them are pretty awful. And it's always great when you can honor your ancestors. We're now going to have some music from Attila Nagy, who you think he's tuning. Ready?
Hello. Susan asked me to sing this one song I wrote a while ago.
That mic is fuzzy.
The mic is fuzzy.
Yeah.
The song is called We Didn't Cross. What?
Try this one.
Use this other mic.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, much better. Yes. Now it's gone.
Check. You just lost it. Whatever you did, probably in the connection.
Check. Okay. Okay, the song is called We Didn't Cross the Border. Story in the Glass of Wine. It's not about my culture. I'm a refugee from Hungary.
Yay! There was.
Okay. One compatriot. But working in a community, it just became aware of certain things. I wrote this about 10 years ago. Raise your glass of wine to the light. Visualize my people's plight. We didn't cross the border. The border crossed our people's land. No, we didn't cross the border. The border crossed our people's land. My name is Jesus, a common name from the conquistadores. My real name is Ixpaca, in the language of my ancestors. We cultivated squash and maize from Mother Earth's creation, until thieves took our land and made us work on their plantation. Junipero Serra enslaved my indigenous sisters and brothers. We built Franciscan missions while being robbed of our culture. America invaded Mexica nation, called it Manifest Destiny. Settlers came with gold fever, hunted my kin for state bounty. So raise your glass of wine to the light, visualize my people's plight. We didn't cross the border. The border crossed the people's land. No, we didn't cross the border. The border crossed the people's land. I'm a proud campesino, working long hot days in the wine country where brown men and women are exploited for fat profits of the winery. Yes, we till the soil, harvest ripe grapes for lifestyles of the wealthy. I share one room with 7 brethren. We survive in poverty. Rice and beans boil in my pot while the wealthy share a 6-course meal. Yes, but we are grateful for what we've got. Why some take so much? How could it feel to be so unkind to a fellow man? Ain't no way to be a good neighbor. So know the story of the farm worker while sipping fine vintage from his labor. Raise your glass of wine to the light. Visualize my people's plight. We didn't cross the border. The border crossed our people's land. No, we didn't cross the border. The border crossed our people's land. No, we didn't cross the border. The border crossed our people's land. That's the story of a glass of wine. Can I unplug this? Alex? Can I unplug this?
Okay. I got an email from Wendy Kennan, who's right over there. She's with Idle No More in the East Bay. And she can't remember how she got the Peace Center's email address, but it was a broadcast email saying, anybody want to host the 2 of the women who founded Idle No More? As soon as I saw it, I just wrote back and said, yes, me, please, me. And then I was really surprised to find out how many people didn't know what Idle No More was. But if you're on Facebook, this is one of the values of Facebook. They have a big presence there, and that's how I knew them. So I'm very happy to have one of the founders because Jess couldn't be here for family reasons. And so we have Nina Washte Wilson, who's one of the founders, and then are you getting up to speak too, Ryan? Okay, Ryan, and I apologize for not remembering your last name, so you'll have to tell him your last name. And I'm not going to give you a whole lot of prelude about them because they're here to tell you all about themselves, and I will say this is a fundraising tour, so I know a lot of you paid money to get in, but if anybody feels they have a deep pocket, this is a group that would love you to dig into it. So, and bring them up. Yep. Amboashte. The judge used to be Waket Yuvi. A man with teacher with Chopia Tanket, they will come. We are taking Hanu Neck and Name, you know, not cook choke get the Wakida, eh? Nichumaxiana is Nuyan Peru, from a Machi say one. This fucking cigar soon to go kissing pesos, go kissing pesos. I greet you all in my languages, and I work for the Creator, like many of you. And just for a few brief minutes or a few brief seconds, for all of you that didn't know earlier, the songs that were sung were to ask us to, those of us who could, to please rise for a few seconds. Can you please stand in honor of the people whose territory that we're standing on today? In honor of the traditional people of this land, the original. I give thanks to you for honoring them that way and to remember them always, because we are here. They suffered and they still suffer because we are here and we benefit from that, and they don't. And this is why Idle No More is here, is to shift that power back into where it belongs. Because if we don't do that, we're going to kill ourselves. Thank you. You can have a seat now, please. My name is Nina. I come from southeastern Saskatchewan, and that's in Canada, sort of in the center, the prairie provinces. I'm very happy to see my daughter here, actually, and her husband. I'm just like, yay. I'm happy to be in this territory. It's so beautiful here. I'm always really grateful to be able to go into other territories to see for myself the beauty of the land. Before I recognize anybody's beautiful words or the beautiful actions, I always study the land. I study the trees, I study things like that. I've always been that way, and it's because I think we need to go back to doing that. We need to stop thinking we are the point. We're not the point. If we continue to think that we are the point, we're going to perish. When Idle No More first began, it began because there was a sacred urgency that said, hey, wake up. Hey, something's happening. I always say I'm not an activist. I wasn't born to be an activist, but I was born fighting. As soon as I was able to talk, someone said, don't talk like that. As soon as I was able to walk, someone said, don't walk that way. As soon as I was able to sing, someone said the same thing. So all my life I have been fighting to be who I am, who my ancestors gave me that opportunity to be here. If it wasn't for them and all the suffering that they went through, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here to drive my own Canadian government crazy.
Yay.
When Idle No More began, I had no idea it was going to be what it became. I was working extremely hard, so hard I never brushed my hair for a few days. I was inundated with chat boxes on Facebook that went from 6 to 12, 14 to 84, 124. It was like crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I was talking to people from Bolivia, from Egypt, from Pakistan. I was talking to people from everywhere. And they were all reaching out. They were all looking for something, because them too, the original people of every territory, are fighting back and saying, you know what? This has to stop. I didn't really know what had to stop. What? And what it came down to in where I come from is the government made legislation to extinguish the rights that protect where I come from. Where I come from, we had treaty rights that said we have a say over who and what comes into our territory and does what. And if who or what is not good for the earth, is not good for the unborn,
then they can pack it and leave. But they took that mechanism away. But we're still standing in front and saying, you're not going to get away with this. We're not going to let it happen. And we can't. We have too many generations coming. And how dare we be so arrogant to think we're the point? We're not the point. We never will be. So we need to step back and we need to start realizing all this government legislation that's rolling out, there's ways to deal with it, right? Well, in Canada, everybody thinks Canada is this fresh, beautiful, just friendly place where there's absolutely nothing wrong. It's lies. Our government is a fascist government, and they're slowly looking at exterminating the first people of that land. And once we disappear, you're next. So I'm asking you to start doing some more research. I'm sorry if what I'm saying is troubling to some people. Sometimes I go places and I have quite big debates. But I understand if you weren't raised to understand what that blade of grass means, if you weren't raised to understand what those blossoms mean, what that slight tilt of those poplar leaves mean when they turn upside down, what that means, then you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. It takes a long time to understand all the terminology, the legalese, all the big words. I couldn't wrap my head around all of it. There was so much help coming towards us with all the bills and legislations that were rolling out. We had all kinds of people working around the clock. Some of those bills were 457 pages plus. I got a migraine headache looking at them. I'm not a lawyer. I couldn't do it alone. There was 4 of us that were very concerned about our own territories. When I grew up, I could scoop water. I could drink it. I could pick peanuts, I could pick strawberries, I could eat those. And then growing up, going back to my mom's territories, I saw big signs, don't touch the water, don't drink the water, boil the water, don't even boil the water twice, don't boil it once, boil it twice. And I started to wonder what happened. And I saw all these oil wells slam dunking all over the hills. And our graveyards getting crowded and crowded because we have oil. We have a casino, but we're still dying and we're still homeless. Why? Why in this day and age do we have children perpetrating on children? And it's because of the after effects of genocide. It never stopped. It is still happening. It's still happening. My people are still suffering. I came here because I thought this would be an opportunity to share about what's happening to us and to help nudge a few people awake. My job is to warn you to start taking better care of things. That big fat bill I was talking about, 450 some pages, well, there's a part of it in there that not only undermines our treaty rights to say who can come into our territories and do what. There's also a part in there that decreases our water protection right across Canada down to 1%. So Canada is a free-for-all for exploitation. That means anybody can do whatever it wants to our country. And there's us. Our people do not make 1% of those resources that are stolen. We don't go to the malls that are built on stolen land, but we sure did 2 winters ago. We took over those malls with hundreds, thousands of our young people with drums, reminding people that we didn't vanish. We're here and we're not going anywhere. And we're not going to let this happen to us. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what class you are. If you have no clean water, you will die. So you need to figure out something. How are you going to protect that holy, sacred water? In our ways, that water is the most important medicine. You try going without water for 3 or 4 days, you'll figure out real quick how important water is. It is the most sacred thing we have. If we could have medicines packed to the sky in a room, pick all kinds of medicines, we could have all that. If we have no clean water to boil it with, there's no point in having any of that. So that is why to my people, this decrease in water protection was so frightening. It's because our water now is for grabs. Anyone can come in and take whatever they want. And they can throw us in jail and brutalize us first to do it. And that's happening in Canada. We have men still in prison right now for defending and protecting the eastern coastline. They're still locked up. It's going to increase because we haven't been able to be successful in stopping all this legislation that's coming through. We haven't been successful, so our people are now starting to mobilize, meaning we're getting on the ground. Now, people might think that's not such a good thing to do. We don't want to get people violent. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do or what not to do. All I'm going to say is I want our people to be best prepared, because you know who's on that front line? My kids are on that front line. My kids, my sister's kids, people directly impacted by the effects of the legislation are going to be on that front line. There's going to be quite a struggle because now our government has managed to terrorize, turn us into terrorists for protecting our land and our water. Do I look like a terrorist? Maybe for those few days when I didn't brush my hair, you know. But I'm no terrorist. But I will stand and I will defend my land. And if I go to jail for that, I guess that's what has to happen. But I won't be the only one. There's going to be a whole bunch of Ninas behind me. Because we are at a place now where we don't have the time. We're running out. Talk to any scientist, he will tell you we have less than 10 years of fresh, clean water. What does that tell you? Some of you will be alive in 10 years. What are you going to do in 10 years? What are the children going to do? What is that baby going to do in 10 years? We need to get our heads out of the clouds, and we need to start working in protecting and harvesting. And where I come from, it's illegal for me to collect rainwater. Like, I'm still going to do it because that's just the way it works, right? Who's going to monitor me, by the way? I don't know. But that's what I'm going to do. And so when Idle No More began, we didn't know it was going to turn into this. We thought with enough punch, we could stop the lunatic that was in power. But no, he got worse. He kept getting worse. We wonder sometimes if he's even all there, because he keeps rolling out crazier and crazier bills. So we haven't been successful in stopping them. So like I said, our people are starting to get ready. There are women that are going to prison because women are the ones that step forward, frontline. They stepped forward knowing full well that they were going to get hurt. Something was going to happen to them, but they did it anyway. Because you don't mess with a mama bear and her cubs.
Oh.
She will get up and she will defend them the best that she can, and that's what those women did. There are several women in Canada who are criminalized for doing that. There are warrior societies that we have in Canada that are depicted as wrong, bad, evil. I'm going to tell you something. Every single Indigenous people, I don't care if you're from Poland, from South Dakota, Canada, whatever, you have warrior societies. Indigenous people always had warriors. So what I love to do is I love to break down the myths around our warriors and tell you they're not bad. The media is telling you all these things because they get paid to BS. They get paid good bucks to BS. We don't use mainstream media anymore. We don't need them. We have all kinds of creative, critical thinking, independent media that we can turn to. We don't need sheep to tell our story. So we use what we can, what outlets we can. Facebook was like, boom, explosion. Our people connected like never before. Our people mobilized like never before. When we came in those malls and people were like, what are you doing? Our people were scared. I was present at several flash mobs where our people went in and they were literally shaking because we don't ever get the chance to express ourselves. We don't get to say what's happened to us without getting knocked down and thrown in the back of a cop car right away for opening our mouths. So going into those malls was frightening. Some of our people were shaking. There were some of our elders present, old ladies that wept. They were weeping. They had never in their generation saw their grandchildren so powerfully standing there with those drums singing. They'd never ever seen that, and it made them cry and made them weep. These are elders who were imprisoned in residential schools, who were brutalized, raped, tortured, beaten, starved, kidnapped by the Canadian government. I'm sorry if this is a little harsh for some, but this is the real truth. You want the truth? I'll give it to you.
It's the truth.
The truth is, my mother was kidnapped when she was 5 years old, just like those old ladies that were crying that time in that roundhouse flash mob. They were sobbing because they never felt that experience. It felt so exhilarating. It was almost like I had wings in there. But of course we were like shoulder to shoulder stuck. Some people closed their stores. They got scared of us. They closed their stores. Some people closed their stores and joined us, hand in hand. They didn't know what the heck was going on, but they said, hey, I'm in here. And they joined us, and it was awesome. And some of them were like, couldn't be bothered. They tried to make their way through the crowd, but we stopped them because they couldn't. So they just came with us. And a couple managers come and said, hey, Nina, what are you doing? You are wrecking my business. I'm like, hello, do you see how much customers you could potentially have? You thought we just never existed. Now you know how many of us really do live in this town. And there's a big sign that says, we all smile in the same language. Smile, I said, you're being recorded. He smiled. So it's not about being intimidating, being a bully. It's about speaking out. Because if you don't speak out, your silence is your consent. You're saying, go ahead, do whatever you want to me, I'm not going to say a word. But if you open your mouth and you say no, you're not going to do that to me. Even if you don't know why you're saying it. The very first rally I ever organized, there was 4 people there. I didn't even know what I was talking about. I was just so glad there was only 4 people there. But there was only 4 people there. None of us had a clue what we were really doing. After that rally, I walked door to door in the hood. I don't know if you call it hoods here, but back home we call them the hood. Walked door to door to these houses, to these businesses, organizations, and I told them, hey, guess what's happening? And people started to get riled up. What? How could this be? Even though they're in the city. I go to the cities all the time, but I go home. My home is the land. Not those little reservation concentration camps. But the land, anywhere the land is where my people roam, that's where my home is. So when I told people that this was happening, immediately they got ready to do some to do some gathering and talking about it. They didn't really know what they were going to do, but they decided they had to meet. And that's how Winnipeg got started. There were some very key people in Winnipeg that really helped mobilize all that. Some very humble people. Today, it's one of the cities that is always ongoing. There's an action almost every week, every weekend. It's continual there. So there's no way I could possibly keep up the pace that I was going at, or I would be crazy by now, or I wouldn't be here. It's huge. That's why, just like the grass, it has to move out like this. We don't have any top-down hierarchy. That's why it is so frustrating to organized thinkers. Okay, what is this? Can someone tell me what this is? They have a hard time with it because it's not top-down hierarchy. We even struggle with how we're going to work this. Because there's not one single person in this room who understands what old Indigenous traditional governance is, because we have been colonized. Each and every person sitting in this room has been colonized. So we're breaking free from that, and it's really messy, and it's really dirty, it's really painful, and some of my people just they say all kinds of things, and they scare people. Awesome. They should be able to voice those things, because that stuff they're keeping inside is going to kill them. We all know what happened in some of our lands where we come from, in Russia, Yugoslavia, all those different places. We know because they're written in books, right? We hear it. There is a concerted effort in Canada to tell you a bunch of crap and say, this is what you buy, $29.95. You can buy this great history book on the Indians in Canada, written by some expert somewhere that no one even has ever seen him, right? Well, I'm telling you right now, the experts are these guys that were sitting at this drum. These experts are the people with our languages in our bundles. Our experts are very old. You probably won't even ever see them. Our experts are the grassroots. We are going to rewrite history, and we're going to correct a lot of things. Because there's a big shame in coming out of esteemed universities like Yale, Harvard, Berkeley, University of Manitoba even. And you don't even know who the first people of that land are. How can you graduate not knowing that? Challenging the academia is part of it. The academia are also working really hard because there's only a few in our institutions that are holding the fort. And they daily have to deal with the racism and things like that continually. So I don't know more is a whole bunch of things. If I can use my influence to help, I'm going to use it. It doesn't matter if you're in California or you are in Paddle in Alberta or you are somewhere. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use that influence because I can. And that is what we need to use our influence for. Because when you're all dried up in that box, you're not famous anymore. You are in all those books, I guess you could say. But I'm going to live, and I'm going to look right straight into all my Takosha's eyes. Those are my grandchildren, and I'm going to tell them, I did everything I could for you. Everything. And I'm going to be peaceful when my days are done, because I've done it all for them. Everything we're doing, protecting, defending Mother Earth, is for the children. Our children have suffered. My children, you think what I do is easy. It's very hard. My kids, they don't get a mom like everybody else gets a mom. Their mom is someone that everybody wants her time. And they watch things. My children don't go to school. I am their teacher. I am their mother. I teach my children by the way we live. Someday, when I can trust that institution of education again, my children will return. But until that day when they tell the truth about who I am, then they won't be returning until that happens. So I'm asking you all to take some time to try to understand the history of the people. It's going to be ugly because, like the lady mentioned, some of the relatives that we have are not so good for some of the things that happen to our people. But we have to sit at those tables. If we have to get those tables out of the way and call the police and the ambulance to be on site and get it out of the way, then maybe that's what we need to do. We need to get through those hard, scary moments of being scared of each other, being angry with one another, and be okay with that anger. Somebody very beautiful just taught me that being angry is not a bad thing. Because I was always angry. I was like, grrr, the bear of the world. I was grrring everywhere. She taught me being angry means you love yourself. It means you love something. It means you love an idea. You love your work. And when she explained it that way, believe it or not, my anger shifted. Boom. And I was able to carry myself in a little bit of a different, more constructive way. Where I come from, people are really wounded, deeply wounded, because of all the assimilative policies we've survived. There's been no relief from one to the next. It's been one after another, layered on top of each other. In Canada, our jails are full of our people. Full. The female correctional centers, 100% Native. The penitentiary system, 75%. The correctional centers, 85 to 90%. I used to work at a youth facility on contract. 480 of our people were in there. 429 of those were Native. 480 kids were in there and 429 of our children were in there. We have tens of thousands of children in care. Please do some homework, because we have to keep educating about what the realities are. If we don't, the earth is going to take care of all of us. I have had children and elders tell me really frightening dreams that they're seeing catastrophes, things like that coming. I'm not here to freak you out or sound all hippie-ish or whatever. I'm just telling you the truth. These children and these elders, they have a close connection, because one is just leaving and one just got here from that holy place. Whether you're an atheist or not, I believe that we have a creator. And we have breath of life because of that creator. And so we need to use our influences the best way we can. If we see something wrong, we need to change it. I don't know more is about getting comfortable with changing the systems, all of them. You can't go through just changing the politics. It doesn't work like that. I'll bet you $1 million we could change everything but the politics. So I'm saying every system has to get uncomfortable Every system has to be jarred loose, and things need to fall apart so that we can start building back up again. And there are people out there who are not going to allow that to happen, right? There's a lot of money out there to stop people like me. And those people that they are, I guess you could say, putting a misrepresentation out there about are our water and land defenders. I keep waiting for that crazy story to pop out about me. When is it gonna hit the papers how nutty Nina is and how unreliable and crazy she really is? It's coming. That's fine with me, because there are other ways we can get our truth out there. I was so fortunate to meet so many different people that are into journalism. The real journalism, you know, the stuff that you see movies written about. The real journalism. I met people like that are gifted with that way and that won't stop for anything but the truth. They're coming back, and they're starting to overshadow all these mainstream sheep that just keep writing whatever pays the bills, right? So, saying all that, again, I apologize if I've offended you. My job, like I said, is to warn you that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you. If you muck up your own water, you're going to die. Hello. If you contaminate your own soil, you're going to die. You need to stop. Figure out ways to stop. And it's one thing to say this to this room full, when there are thousands of corporate people out there who would step on every single one of us in this room if they could. But there's something powerful about grassroots. It's so wild. It's like that kind of grass you can't quite get rid of. It just pops up here and there. There is no pesticide for grassroots. You are all grassroots. You all have that something, whatever that is. I sound all corny, but I say the Creator gave you something. Use that, what the Creator gave you. Go to your lands. Use them. Take care of each other. Those of you who know how dangerous it is to be brown in a world where authorities will hurt you, start figuring out a way you can protect yourselves, protect your families. Don't go places alone. Make sure you record things. Do not allow your children to, put themselves in a situation that's going to put them at risk. Teach them about those dangers. My son is a very good person like that at home. We call him fire keeper. That's what he does. He is a fire keeper. He is a buffalo killer. He does those things literally. So he knows. It seems like in a city, it's almost like he's shielded in a little bit of a way. I was a little bit upset with him. He went exploring, and he could have got hurt. You know how mama bears are, right? You're all moms and dads, grandpas and uncles. We care for our children. So figure out ways that you can teach your young people how to stay safe. That's why Idle No More, we encourage them all. Record everything. Find out what your rights are. Find out what you can do. Get people learned on that. Or learned, how that word is, I guess. There's lots of different ways you can become more involved. There's lots of different ways you can shift your involvement. This work will burn you out big time. It's kicked my butt a time or two where I had to literally take a little break in a hospital just because. So this is hard work. It can take a lot out of you, but it's almost like if you keep your eye on the focus. And my focus is always the children that are not here. They're not here yet. I get inboxes by some ladies and they say, Nina, how do you do this? You must be so frustrated and so angry and so harsh. It must be hard being a mom doing all this. And you know what? It is. If you know some warrior women out there, help them out. Support them. Don't let them carry that burden alone, because they're saving your butt with you. Alleviate some of that. This lady that invited me here, Wendy, she's like a warrior sister. Totally. I see her every day and how she is. She just rocks. She's like she's like she should have been one of my sisters where I come from.
She is.
She's awesome. So I'm serious. Our ladies that carry the burden of this, they need support. The movement is woman-led. There's lots of men involved, but the smart men are stepping back a little bit, and they're letting our women, not letting us, they're giving us back our space, because we know what patriarchy did to our people. All of our people honored the female. We always had control of that food sovereignty. We always had control of how the camp worked. Why? Because we were women? No, because the Creator gave us certain gifts. And that's why He bestowed that on us. When the invaders came to my territory and saw my ancestor grandmothers running the show, they were shocked. They couldn't have that, because if they had that, then their dominated women might get out of hand. So that battle to start breaking us down and turning us into doormats began. And we're saying no more. We won't be raped anymore. We won't be beaten anymore. We won't be dominated anymore and controlled. We know what we're doing. And we're going to do this in a gentle, good way.
I wanted to take you up on that $1 million bet, because I am certain that you, the women on Turtle Island, already possess the power to change the political animal. It's called a 40-day general strike. You talked about the corporate people, but for every one of them, there's 50,000 of us. And we've been taught to seemingly do everything under the sun except use our true power, which is a shutdown of the system so they're on their knees. And I've been given and shared for 20 years the power and the prophecy of the 40-day general strike, where we shut down all labor and all schools and show decency in the world. We're no longer their fools. And so to you and the women here, I'll finish by saying, God has fear arisen. It's time to break the chains of this prison. You are the power of the time is at hand to open these doors to the promised land. A 40-day general strike, and you will attain everything as you would like.
I have a question. After your 40-day strike, did your government change?
We are the government.
I'm not trying to be facetious, but speaking to Nina's point, the reason that we talk about, a lot of the work that we're doing, the reason that we came here to talk to you guys is because we have a very specific experience, but we also have a lot of experiences in common. And unfortunately, one of those experiences in common is that we have a government. Our government is basically two parties. It's supposedly three, but there's really two parties, the conservatives and the liberals. Here, I believe it's Democrats and Republicans. Am I right?
Yep.
So it really doesn't matter, because in my lifetime, I'm 36 years old. I've never gotten to vote for somebody that I believed was the best candidate.
Oh.
I've always had to vote for the shiniest turd. So even if you change the government, really what's going to happen? We have to be the government. We have to look for ways to change things, not using the same mechanisms that they expect us to use.
I agree with you 100%. I believe that there was a general strike led by the women in California that ran through this country. People put the lowest work in the White House.
We clapped, which did not mean you were saying you were done.
So you got interrupted. I want you to keep going if you want to keep going. We will have a time for question and answer, but when
that happens, is up to
Thank you.
I would like to ask if you would like to hear from some youth. A couple of words from our youth. Can you come up here, Stephen and Daniel?
No, go on the other side. There's a cord here.
I'll give you a little bit of a background here. This is my son, Daniel. This is my nephew, Stefan. Recently, Stefan lost his brother to suicide. And it was very hard for our family and for his family to go through that. So one of the things we do as Dakota is we smudge and we pray every day. And that's what Stefan did every day to kind of keep a balance for himself. And he went to school like that. Going to school like that, school officials stopped him and said, you know what, you smell like weed. Get in the office. So not only did he have so many things taken from him recently, he was affected by his right to practice his spirituality. It was also affected. That is a human rights violation. So this is a little bit about that. And then we have a little bit about Daniel, who talks about his role in our ceremonies. Can you come and speak?
Hi, I'm Stefan, as Nina mentioned. So what happened with my school is, well, she pretty much said everything, and like how they made me feel about it just wasn't very good.
Hello, my name is Aigu Sixeno. I'm from Thunderchild First Nation, Canada, Saskatchewan. And like my mom said, I'm a Scopios. My English name is Daniel Hawk Sangre. And I just want to tell you guys some of the things we experience in Canada. Like what I said is I'm like a firekeeper. I help sing. I help put lodges together. And that road and the road she brings me with. And our country is very, it's just brainwashed. Like, I used to have a braid that was past my butt crack, okay? And my own people, they would make fun of me. They'd call me names about that, and they all have short hair, and they don't even realize that that was a part of our culture a long time ago. And they'd be making fun of me about my own culture and their own culture. Just things like that. And me working in ceremonies, and when people poison our lands or our waters, what it does is it affects our medicines. As traditional people, you can't heal somebody with poison medicine. You can't heal somebody, or you can't help somebody and feed somebody with poison food and water. And a lot of that happens in Canada. I can explain by telling you guys one story. When my Nishtao, my brother-in-law, Billy Wadidika, he took me on a buffalo hunt. I got one buffalo that was in a dense, isolated kind of area where they couldn't really drill around in that. So I got a buffalo there. It was perfect. The meat was good, right? We had it. We could take our time cutting it apart and everything. And then a couple of days later, we got another buffalo from a couple kilometers away, miles, I guess. And that buffalo was rotting alive. And I don't know what they had around there, maybe potash. They have oil corporations everywhere. You can't even go around in the States. I mean, not in the States, in Canada You enter there, you see oil, you see rigs everywhere. Can't drive too far without seeing them. Just like over here, how you guys have it. I noticed coming into Canada, you guys have oil rigs all over the place, you know? And it affects our medicines and it affects our animals, and that's what we need to survive. And that's what my people survived with from hundreds of thousands of years from now. And that's pretty much all I gotta say, is it affects not just us, but the ones that were here before us. And we gotta respect them as they're like people too. You gotta respect them as much as you respect your mother, your daughter, your baby. They were here before us. They're here alongside us. They don't do anything to us. So why do we do things to them? Why do we kill them? Why do we poison them? They help us in a way to feed us. If we can have them, we would not be here. Thank you.
Traveling with children is challenging, I'll tell you. It's really stinky too. Roll the windows down. So we have to start building nations again. And that's why these children come with me. And they challenge me and they make me face my own residential school issues. Every time we get in that van and we go on a long trip, I'm faced with my issues. They keep me humble. They keep me understanding that, you know what, it's really hard to deal with some of the effects that we have. And I understand it's going to take many generations to heal our people. But one of the first things I want to say, there can be no reconciliation without some recognition and something done about how the first people of the land were literally pushed out so we could benefit from it. We need to look at that, and we need to know how to make those reparations. Because if we can't go to that level, we can't build anything on a foundation that isn't true. We have to build from a true foundation, and that is the truth. It may take time, but we got time. I'm sure this is not going to happen in my lifetime. But it doesn't matter, I'll do it till I can't do it anymore. So I really want to say thank you all for being idle no more, for not being stuck, for moving, doing what you need to do. I want to thank the singers for their powerful songs and for the way that they carry themselves and the way they speak. The truth, I love it. I want to thank the organizers for doing this, and for the people that brought me here. Wendy brought me, I didn't even know Wendy or Ryan until I got here, and I kind of have learned how to trust a little bit. Sometimes I can get you into trouble, but I think we got to try, start trusting one another, into stepping into situations that are not going to be too comfortable, but they're necessary. Like I said, we need to get at those tables or those sacred fires, and we need to talk. We need to talk about what's happened. And people are always saying this in Canada, get over it. It ain't gonna happen. We can't get over it. I just come to that conclusion. Sorry, I can't get over it. Now what are you gonna do with me? Thank you for being idle no more, and I'll answer whatever questions I can. And just anyone that made this possible, thank you, but especially to the original people of this land. Pinama.
Well, that's kind of a tough act to follow. So I guess really there's a few things that I wanted to speak about. They're really quick things. Nina is, well, she's Nina. I mean, you saw at the very start, sorry, I'm not being loud enough. You saw at the very start when we came up to the stage, the first thing Nina did actually was to ask me if I wanted to speak first. I think it's really important that everybody understands why I declined that. Aboriginal people, especially in Canada, Indigenous women in particular, are extremely marginalized and oppressed. Basically, they have never really been given their voice. And that's why what Nina does is so absolutely integral to what we're doing. It's very important that we all acknowledge the fact that they're pretty much marginalized. Nina doesn't need anybody to let her speak. Nina is, like she said, she's taking her rightful place. But it's very important for Native people in particular that we acknowledge that. So I just wanted to step back and make sure that Nina got the opportunity to speak to you all, because in reality, it's absolutely important that we make sure that we always listen to our women. Our women have always been our knowledge keepers. They've always been the caretakers. And that's the road that we're on now. We are on the road back to recovery. And the main reason that we decided that we really needed to bring Nina to California was because we know that there are original people here, and their struggles are the same struggles that we experience in Canada. So I'm Métis. My people come from the Red River in Manitoba. We were displaced and we were forced to move west to Alberta. We don't live in the nice part of Alberta. They gave us land that basically nobody else wanted to live on. It's swamp. And it's in the far, far north, basically at the end of the arboreal forest in the muskeg. So I understand what it's like to actually travel through my own homeland and see other people living there. And people like Nina are doing things in Canada now like a culture, basically a culture camp, where she's going to actually be on the land. She's going to be teaching our people their own culture, because the saddest thing about what we're going through right now is that a lot of our own people don't know our own culture. And we need to have people like Nina speak about our culture and explain it to people in terms that they can understand, and making sure that they're perpetuating our real culture. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but there are actually people out there who don't have our best interests at heart. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but they don't care that our cultures are disappearing. We need to make sure that those cultures, those vibrant and distinct cultures, that they're maintained. People like Nina and the things that she's doing, that's how we're going to be able to do that. The main reason too that I wanted to speak is because Nina is a very humble person, and I tease her about it quite often because we talk on Facebook a lot, and I really want to make sure that people can hear her words and hear them right from her, because it's like that game that we all played when we were kids, you know, one person whispers in one person's ear, and by the fifth person the message is totally changed. So I'm really glad that we had the opportunity tonight for everybody to come here and hear her speak. And I just wanted to say thank you very much, and we do respect the fact that we're on Ohlone territory. And thank you very much for all coming.
I guess really quickly, yes, before I stop talking, I forgot to mention that we're starting some protection camps back home. In our Treaty 4 territory, we have the KXL trying to come through. We have Energy East Pipeline, Vantage Pipeline, all these pipelines coming through. We have some pretty invasive mining that are coming through. And so we're putting up these protection camps because we need our water. And no one is going to push us out of our land anymore. We need to protect that for the children, for the ones that are not born yet. So if anyone wants to know more about these camps, I can leave my contact information and we can do some talking that way. Other than that, if you're on Facebook, you can add me and you can see the campaigns that are going on for these camps right now. I don't know how much I'll be able to contact the world out there once I get there, because I don't know if there's signal around there or not. But from here, I'm heading into Pine Ridge to go see some moccasins on the ground, and then I'm heading into Rosebud to see their sacred traditional camp that's there. So I encourage you all to understand what these camps are, understand what the warrior systems really are. Embrace them. Our brothers and sisters who would go to the front line for us, they need our respect. Talk to us. I know a little bit about it. I know that right now they're going through the truth phase of it. The truth phase is where people are speaking about their experiences. My mother is a direct survivor of residential school. I don't know her story. She's in her 80s. I know very little. What I do know is heartbreaking. It makes me angry when I hear what my mother endured in residential school. So a lot of our people recently were talking about their experiences. And of course, if you're going to talk about these experiences, you need a certain kind of audience, right? You need the people there that are, I guess, descendants of those who perpetuated the crimes of residential school. Because what good is it then? We're just re-traumatizing each other, right? So we need to have people there who are key, who have been a part of the society and the systems that have kidnapped and imprisoned our parents and brutalized them. Why? Because that's the next phase. There can be no reconciliation until some of these land issues are dealt with. It's like putting a Band-Aid on something that's gushing blood. So the reconciliation, part of it is to come. The truth part of it, they just completed a phase of that. So the reconciliation is going to be interesting, like one of the very key people involved stated in a status on Facebook. It was that reconciliation is going to be another thing. So I was really glad to see that statement, because truth is the first part, and then the reconciliation is separate. I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I want to, if there's light in it. Okay.
I'm not sure. I think it would be too. No. You have an awesome question, because I'd like to know the same thing. I'd like to know, how can we reconcile such a violent, brutal past when we are still being displaced from our territories?
Right.
When we are still being poisoned in our own territory? How can there be a reconciliation? So we need to really be mindful of how that reconciliation is going to roll out, and be involved as much as we can. If there even is a possibility of a reconciliation. Is it too soon? No, it's never been done. Our direct survivors, that was for them. A lot of us kept silent because out of respect for our parents and the trauma that they had to go through. We, as intergenerational trauma survivors, we still feel almost everything as if we were there too.
Yeah, the least that I can say is the truth that you have spoken. I mean, to some extent, it has hurt to some of us. But I think that's good, because it just, in my mind, a lot went on. And you talk about being colonized. And yes, indeed, we have been colonized. You have been talking about the problem that you are facing. And then you also took us to go to different continents, Egypt, Bolivia. I'm from El Salvador, my wife is from Guatemala. We have all these problems down there. So this is a reality that, because we are in a comfort zone, we are so isolated from problems that are affecting us that we don't even know. So I take your truth as something that, it's just gotta make us wake up somehow, some extent, and we hope that it's gonna be the sooner the better. And you inspire me to write some poem because I like to write, and honestly, I will do so.
That's awesome. I think our artists and our creators of things, there's some people in here who have some bad skills. Like quilling and singing and stuff like that, they have some really bad skills. So I'm saying, that's one way we can get stories out without being stuck in all the hurt, right? The humor. We have such incredible, crazy, funny people, even though we've had so much trauma. I enjoy myself even when we're sitting in really sad situations. We have ways to figure out how to laugh and how to lift each other. So I appreciate that comment, and I think we need to understand that isolation he's talking about is not just in Bolivia. It's right here in this neighborhood. People are isolated, they're feeling isolated, and that's part of oppositional research. Take the word opposition and resistance, figure out what it means, do some research on it, and figure out how to bridge that isolation for people. The isolation is just a symptom that we can fix it. If we take the isolation piece out of it, that brings us closer together. When people feel isolated, they want to give up. They want to pack it in. They want to have no hope. So that's the first thing you spank is isolation. Spank that right out of the way. There's ways. Get creative. One of the best ways I find that bridges isolation is reaching out through something that touches your heart, like poetry, like writing, like art, like quilling, like dancing, beading, all those things. Those are ways you can eliminate isolation. Do not isolate warriors. Do not isolate people who are working really hard. You have to get together and figure out for your own community here how that's going to work for you.
Thank you for coming to California, Nina, and it's been awesome to have you here. And I was really happy that you wanted to come to the forum that we had in Berkeley on Monday night. And I just wanted, it sort of relates to the question of truth and reconciliation, because the Peace and Justice Commission of the City of Berkeley, which I serve on as a volunteer, we hold community education forums every now and then on critical issues. And so we held one on Indigenous issues, Indigenous rights. And so we had a panel on Monday night, and Nina was on the panel, but mostly it was representatives from the local Ohlone community, and particularly the Chochenyo people. And we talked about ways that we can implement the articles of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples to honor their rights. And as the commission was planning this event, which actually took over a year, we talked about the model in Canada of truth and reconciliation, and it was kind of like, we don't want to fall into a box. We just actually want to do something meaningful that will be effective, that will be proactive. How sensitive is it as a body of the city of Berkeley to actually approach the local Native community and say, like, will you guide us so that we can support your needs? So we ended up at the end of the forum passing 5 resolutions through the commission that are going to the city council, addressing preservation of sacred sites, burial sites, the place of origin of the Ohlone people, which is threatened, and also how can the United Nations Declaration be upgraded to a convention, and how can we implement it more in Berkeley? So I wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to ask Nina, because you spoke so beautifully that night. Can you share a little bit of what you heard from the Ohlone community this week?
I heard the community say that They want to be included. They don't want to be just tokens. They want to be a part of that whole process. The part of the process of creating mechanisms that are going to start looking at the original people and how those original people are still here and how they're still being affected by continuation of colonization. That's kind of what messages I got. They want to be able to speak for themselves and to represent themselves and not have, I guess, other people represent them. Just like all of us. We want that too.
With all respect, just for your information, here in Sonoma County, it's Pomo.
Pomo,
This
okay.
is Pomo country, and we love the Ohlone.
Thank you for that correction. So the first people of the territory, protect your turf.
Miwok Pomo.
Just did. We were all First People.
Yep.
And part of our understanding of how we fit in is where our people, what push folks from Russia, from Germany, so on and so forth, all around, pushing the full capitalism. How is that reflected in your struggle and our struggle? Because it is, I'm not saying it's all the same. We're all fighting against the same thing. When we get that, and it's part of personal history. Get back to your soul. Tell yourself where they came from, why they did it. When people do that, you find out very interesting things about what pushed them out here. People don't come here for a better life. They come here because life in their own countries, they have been made terrible. And if we build on that understanding, then we have an opportunity.
That's true. And people come here also because their governments lied to them and said that there was nothing here, open and free, when in reality it was teeming with Indigenous people life. So they were lied to. Didn't make it any different. It is what it is. So find out that history and start writing your own history. Start to cherish your own oral traditions. Some of our songs go back generations and they tell a story. So I encourage you to find out your own customs of your people, your own languages, the old ways you did things. Because that's what our struggle is about. All those things that happened to to other people still didn't make it okay for us to be nearly exterminated here. So we need to keep that in mind as well.
Because we all are those people. You anticipate the need for help occupying your territory. Please let us know who the Center of Peace and Justice Center.
Absolutely.
I came here prepared to help occupy the peace construction. I don't know whether you anticipated me for that, but I'd like to hear that addressed. I came late.
Okay.
This time.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
He was just mentioning that he wanted to know more about what we're doing to occupy our territory back home, right?
Yes.
A little bit more.
You need our help.
We wanted outside help.
We do. We will. We have several camps that are going to be set up.
Will you ask us through the Peace and Justice Center, perhaps?
Yes.
Unless you want to put out an email.
Sure. I have an email. I can give you some information that way. We can do some email exchanges and talk like that or on the phone or something. For sure.
And I'm sure Wendy will keep me informed.
Oh,
She
yeah.
knows that I don't see.
Here in California,
there's been a war going on here in California for over 200 years. That's the Cowboy Indian Wars. And a couple years ago, me and a group of people got all the tribes in California together. Department of Water Resources reached out, Department of Water Control Board. Now we're part of the process. Completely, all the tribes in California are part of the process. They all have a vote. They all have a way of doing things. I just wanted to say this for a positive note. You know, that there is things that can be done. They said you couldn't harvest rainwater and gray water here in California. Well, we did it. We changed it. Not only can we do that, can we harvest rainwater, use gray water, but we could even use atmospheric water. We have these abilities to change it. It took 2 years, but it was 200 years to make it. And that's just the beginning. We've got a lot more to do.
Yes. Good to hear that. Really good to hear that.
I wanted to mention that we have some independent local news sources. We call ourselves mainstream. We say that they are corporate, we are mainstream.
All right.
The Peace and Justice Center puts out the Peace Press, which is fundamentally about activism. So if there's anybody active around these issues who wants to get the word out, we are always open to putting articles in here about what they're doing. This is New Press Nueva Prensa. It's 100% bilingual, English, Spanish, and it is more a news paper for the 99%. And so this would be more reporting on issues that are happening mostly around the North Bay that then relate to larger issues.
Well, thank you.
So if anybody is interested in either of these in terms of contributing, you can talk to me.
Unrecognized tribe that is doing a lot of work around their rights and shut them down and what's their livelihood and their environment and land. So that's something that's close.
She's speaking about the Windu people in the Mount Shasta area.
Thank you so much for being inspired and pushing past the apathy that can often be there and coming forward and you know, really igniting the fire that is idle no more. Thank you so much, because many of us activists that, you know, decry the nuclear madness, that decry the fracking, that decry the patriarchy and all the other ridiculous, insane things we're dealing with, we can get very beaten down. And you can feel very much alone, and you get to that place of like, God, what can I do? I mean, I've been an activist my whole life. I've written the music, I've done, I've been, you know, organized, and I've gotten to the point in the last couple of years where I just want to plant plants. You know, I just want to take seeds, put them in the ground, and you know, thank the goddess that, you know, I still have the waters to make them grow, because my fear is ratcheting up as no one listens. And I mean, here, we just went to the fracking demonstration in California about 3 weeks ago. Maybe there was 4,000 people there. You know, what does it take? I'll go, I'll do it, I'll cook it, I'll make it, I'll sing it. What does it take? And so I can't be the only one that is this much agitated by the situation that we face. So I thank you so much, because you found a way to ignite a fire. And so I want to take whatever I can. I want to share whatever I can of your inspiration. Absolutely. And let it just come into my life and see what form it takes. You know, and I just put it out there to all of us that the fear is so intense. And that it is, we all know it's the love, but I'm still fighting the fear. So whatever we can all do, each moment, you know, because the time is now. I feel this hurriness of like, hurry up, you know? And I know that you must struggle a lot with the same, I know we all struggle with it, so deep thank you, you know, for all that you do. Deep green resistant thank you.
Do we have any more questions or comments?
I just have a comment, because as I pray about some of these things, the word that comes to me is sacrifice, and it sounds like that's in your life. But so what I see for some of us too is like, it's so easy when you're trying to walk that spiritual road to have the distractions that pull. And I thought what you said about the drumming in the mall, that sounds like the best use of the mall that I've ever heard. So, you know, if you have any special thoughts about that sacrifice that you have to do and to inspire us to on that path, be careful, because we can get pulled off. And
That's
what
right.
the powers that we would like to see.
I think in the beginning, I was like, if I was a lizard, my eyes would have been like this, because I was just like doing 10 million things at once, all kinds of things. I was spread so thin, I was becoming useless. Because when you're doing 50 million things, you cannot do a good job at any of those. So what I suggest is to focus on maybe a couple things, and it's hard for me to do that because I have a passion about everything. But I try to narrow it down to the children. Anything that will affect them, that's when I'll start moving. If anything affects them, then I'll move. And apparently everything does, because I'm really, really busy. And I really appreciate that word sacrifice. I think at this time, there are so many of our people and all kinds of people who put that sacrifice out of the context of words and into action. And you see it. Even though it doesn't look like our government see that, I've seen so much change in me. This thing right here in between my ears is the most colonized thing. And this is the one that I fight with all the time. This is the one when I travel with that van full of 12 kids. This is the one that gets challenged the most. Because I grew up really, really affected by residential school. And by being with all that challenge around me, it's helped me to try to become better. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. No, by no means am I good at it. I'm just learning how to parent 5 kids later. So that sacrifice, it's theirs too. The little ones, the children, they sacrifice because their moms and their dads never got to learn how to parent because of that prison system. So their sacrifice, I always think about their sacrifice. And if that's something that can compel me, if it's compelling, then it's going to make me move. If I hear someone over here talking about whatever, and there's no element that talks about the future of the children, then I can turn that one off for now. This one, I can turn it off for now. And I can focus on what I need to focus on. And the children go almost hand in hand with the land and the water. That's why we're protecting and defending, because of them. I hope that doesn't sound crazy or anything.
At the beginning, Nina, you said something about not knowing who to address or to fight. And somebody last night just reminded me that back in the 14th and 15th centuries, the systems that sent the ships out to colonize were the corporations of their day, the East India Company and the rest of them. And what we got today are the same organizations that send their ships out to everywhere to use the
the land, and the people. Bring them out, take out whatever they want, leave whatever they want behind, and make the money that they're there for. So you get more and more a clear idea of who it is and the systems that are used. It's really important to be able to most efficiently strategize and do what we need to do to make those systems dissolve or fall over or whatever it is, so that we can get together, draw our breath, get our strength, and then replace them. We got the numbers, we just don't have all the rest. So I sure don't have an answer. I mean, I'm working a little bit with Move to Amend, which focuses on revoking corporate personhood. It's giant, it's everywhere, and that's all I have to say is that that's what we're up against.
Absolutely. And I just heard an answer right here. It's simple. I don't want to do all that anymore. I just want to plant seeds. Who is powerful is the people that produces their own food. We produce our own food. We don't need all these corporations to bring us food. We own our own food. We can feed our own people. We can become healthy again because we know what we're eating. We know where that food source is coming from. That's one small step. There's so many different places people could put their energy into. I feel what you mean, and that's why I said I didn't know what to focus on. There was so much. I was like a shark in a tank full of chunks of meat. I was going after everything.
Right here in Sonoma County, we have a petition circulating to prevent genetically modified food from being produced anywhere in the county. I urge you all to find that petition and sign it and tell everyone you know.
In there.
Petitions are in the back room.
I'm not done. The other main issue is water is being threatened. Our water locally is being threatened. It's fluoridation. I know a lot of the so-called reservations have been attacked this way. And the injury and the damage has been very obvious. So your supervisors need to hear from you about your opposition to having fluoride. They're toxic, almost as toxic as to the drinking water. Biofiltration does not reduce your cavities.
All of our water in Canada has fluoride in it. All of it. Yep.
Every single big has around zero right now.
So if we're apathetic, it's not really our fault, right? We're kind of like being made to be that way. So we have to figure out how we're going to deal with all these little different things, right? You can make checks out to the treaty. Well, the camp is called Treaty for Land, Air, Water Protection. That's about all I know that you can do that for.